Alright YouTube, so we are back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy. Now, when it comes to this channel, we don't often talk about rumors. We obviously talk about them occasionally. I kind of play it by ear, look the rumor up myself, read it, see what I think about it, and if it's video worthy, we talk about it usually. I'm not really one to go out there and make a video about every single rumor posted on every single social media. It's just, and then mostly these are just pertaining to Remake, generally speaking. But today we have something that's in regards to the entire Final Fantasy series, and it's more than just a rumor, I'd say, because, of course, we are looking at Navtra, who has been pretty successful recently. Of course, last year they predicted that the Final Fantasy 16 reveal would happen at the PS5 event. That, of course, happened. I feel like they did something else in the past before, because I knew their name, but when we talked about that rumor at the time, like, I recognize the name Navtra from something I don't remember off the top of my head. And then more recently, this year, they predicted in February that we'd see the PS5 reveal for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which, again, of course, happened. Now, we as a community were kind of predicting that we'd get, like, the PS5 reveal during, like, the orchestra concert that happened in February. That was not Navtra's prediction. That was ours. And it didn't happen then. It happened, like, at the very end of February. It seemed like it wasn't going to happen, but eventually Navtra came through, and they were correct. So whenever Navtra has a prediction or a rumor, we take notice because they have a good track record. If they were saying these things and none of them were happening, then there'd be no reason to pay attention to what they're talking about. So what we have is, within the last 24 hours or so, we have Navtra over on ResetEra, again, having a bit of a prediction for what Square Enix is going to do within June, and I say June specifically because they do mention E3, but there's also, like, a Square Enix Presents. There also might have been, like, a third gaming event happening sometime within the summer, maybe around June. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like we do so much videos on the channel talking about all the time that I forget some of the things that we have discussed, but I feel like there's another gaming event, maybe around the same time. Regardless, there's at least 2 events that Square Enix is going to be a part of. So Navtra comes out of nowhere replying to somebody's comment. Varian originally said, "We're most likely getting something at E3, even if it's just extended trailer, with Integrate and Endwalker being the main Final Fantasy spotlight this year. Still, it'll be good to see new stuff." And Navtra replies with, "I believe you can expect at least one more major Final Fantasy announcement, in addition to updates on the currently announced stuff, 16 Endwalker 7R. It should be a good E3 season for Square overall." So 2 things I want to point out. For one, Navtra mentioning that there's going to be some major Final Fantasy reveal, which we're going to look at the other comment here in just a second. But the other thing is talking about there being updates to the already announced stuff, and one of those being Remake, which I found to be kind of weird simply because Integrate's coming out on the 10th, E3's happening on June 12th to the 15th, so it's happening like literal days after Integrate comes out. So would we be getting an actual update for that, or for the Remake project as a whole, or do they just mean that they're going to show like an Integrate trailer at E3 or something? Because why would Remake need to be there? And also, I don't really see why they'd want to show like a trailer for Integrate there. They've been promoting this shit for months at this point, unless they got like some sort of, maybe even just a short new trailer for Integrate to help just kind of promote it, even though it'd already be released at the time. Anyways, Navtra's next comment is in reply to Varian again, who said, I don't know if this is some kind of hint or speculation, but thanks anyway, bring it on then." Navtra replies with, "I don't know their exact E3 schedule, but I'm guessing based on knowledge of what games they have in development, how far in they are, and their target release dates, so take it with a grain of salt. I believe we're getting 2 major Square Enix reveals this June, a PS5 exclusive Final Fantasy title, and a cross-gen Eidos title." So first off, Navtra says Eidos, which they haven't been Eidos for like 12 years or something. Like they Square Enix acquired Eidos Interactive in like 2009, and they became a part of Square Enix Europe, so they haven't been Eidos for a while. I thought that was kind of weird. I was kind of confused. I was like, I haven't heard about Eidos in a while. But anyways, looking at the list of games that they make, they do like the Hitman series, Life is Strange, Tomb Raider, or at least have a hand in those games. So what the game could be from Eidos, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know like the rumors on what they're making. We pretty much just focus on Remake here on the channel, obviously, and a little bit of the Final Fantasy series as a whole. Now, out of the franchises I just named, pretty much all of them, if I'm not mistaken, come out on like every single console, and cross-gen would mean that they're coming out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, or whatever. So, I don't know what it'd be. If you look at like the list of the upcoming Square Enix Europe games that are like kind of to be announced, we have Project Hitman Sniper Assassin, an untitled Space Invaders game, and whatever the hell Project Gemini is. So when it comes to this game being some sort of a cross-gen game, obviously that would not be either of the mobile games, so that makes it pretty much either Project Gemini or something else that just hasn't been like rumored or talked about yet. But the obvious biggest takeaway from Navtra's comments are the claim that there's another Final Fantasy PS5 exclusive game to be announced, which is a bit shocking because we have, obviously Integrate has an exclusivity that's extended for a while. That's also dropping just a couple of days before the E3 event. We have Final Fantasy 16, which currently is a PS5 exclusive that's coming out at some point, who knows when. So what the hell could this unannounced, unknown Final Fantasy game that's exclusive to PS5 be? The first one that we gotta say, I don't want to say it, but it's on everybody's mind when we're talking about this, Remake Part 2. It's not likely. It's very unlikely, highly unlikely, but maybe, I guess, I don't know. If this unlikely scenario were to happen, it would only be some sort of a reveal. Like, they wouldn't have a trailer or a release date or anything. It'd be like, hey, we're going to talk about Remake Part 2 this time, maybe next year, 2022, something like that. Like, that'd be the extent of it. It wouldn't be anything major, I wouldn't think. Something I've seen some other people mention that I actually had the thought of before I even seen it on, like, the forums and shit was another World of Final Fantasy game. I never played the first one. I like the concept of it. I like these games like Dissidia and World of Final Fantasy and like the Brave Exvius games and shit where they do like the crossover with all the Final Fantasy characters. I love that concept. World of Final Fantasy looked like a fun game. I just haven't got into it yet. But it looked like at least a fun game. I don't know how well it did. I don't know if it sold enough to warrant them make another one within the game, the franchise or whatever, but maybe that's a possibility. Other than that, I don't know, like another Final Fantasy Tactics game? That's been a while. Other than those like ideas, I just have no idea of what a brand new PS5 exclusive Final Fantasy game would be when there's already so many in the works, seemingly. I'd suggest another Dissidia game, but I'm pretty sure NT was like a major flop, which is why I went like free to play. And I played it, it was kind of fun, but I was never super into those games. So honestly, I really don't have an idea of what this could be, and I find it weird that if Nopster knows that there's a Final Fantasy PS5 exclusive in the works, do they not know like what it is? Or are they just being very vague on purpose, just to kind of cover the tracks in case they're wrong? Because I just find it weird. Like, what the hell? Do we need more Final Fantasy games? I don't know. We got plenty right now. Also, I gotta say, whenever we learn about another project in the work for Square Enix, it's like, man, especially when it comes to the Final Fantasy series, like, let's get some focus. Let's focus on 16. Let's focus on the remake project. I don't necessarily want another Final Fantasy game already. Now, more than likely, whatever this new game would be, it wouldn't be made by the team making the remake project or Final Fantasy 16, but it's still not the point. Like, goddamn, like, we have enough Final Fantasy games. There's like 10 mobile games out there. Anyways, dudes, that is pretty much the video. It's actually longer than I expected it to be, given the subject matter. If you have an idea of what another PS5 exclusive Final Fantasy game would be, throw it in the comments, because I'm honestly just kind of at a loss. Either way, it should be a pretty interesting summer when it comes to Square Enix. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys only want to more Final Fantasy as a whole, I suppose. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, _DaveYT. I'm on Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.